Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over the Week 8 NFL slate on DraftKings. Going to go through each position and talk about some of my favorite plays, early looks at this slate, the guys I expect to have in a lot of my lineups come Sunday. We'll talk about the studs, the mid-tier plays, and if there's any value at each position, I'll go through that as well. But before we do get started, guys, I would really appreciate it if you would drop a like on the video. It does really help me out a lot. And if you are new to the channel and you have not subscribed yet, make sure you click that subscribe button down below. Turn on notifications as well. Click the bell icon so that way you won't miss out on any of my new videos. But yeah, let's go ahead and look at quarterback. Start up top here. We do have Patrick Mahomes, 7K, facing the Broncos at home. Patrick Mahomes, I will definitely be having in a lot of lineups come Sunday. Not going to include him in like my core 5 plays because I don't expect him to be one of my highest exposed quarterbacks. But I'm sure going to have him in some lineups. The dude's just really good. He's kind of like Todd Gurley, just a quarterback. You can just play him every week, no matter what the matchup is. Hasn't scored less than 20 DraftKings points all year. He's just a great quarterback. He's looked great all year. Been very efficient, been great for fantasy. He's faced this Denver team once this year in Denver and put up 25 DK points. He gets to face them this Sunday at home. I expect a big game from Mahomes. I think he can easily get 25 to 30 DraftKings points. And if I can fit him in, I will be trying to do so. Obviously, I prefer him over like Aaron Rodgers. Andrew Luck, I do like this matchup for Andrew Luck, but I think if I'm going to pay $6,300 for a quarterback, I'll probably just try and get up to Mahomes. The guy I do like, though, for a little bit cheaper than Mahomes is Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's facing the Bucs at home. Great spot for Andy Dalton. We'll talk about A.J. Green when we get to wide receiver. I love A.J. Green this week. It's just a great spot for this Cincinnati team. Facing the really bad Bucs defense. This Bucs defense just so bad against the pass and so bad at defending receivers. So Andy Dalton at 6,200, coming off a disappointing week. I expect him maybe to be somewhat low-owned, especially with Mahomes being right up there in price. Expect a lot of people just to go up to Mahomes. So Andy Dalton at 6,200, especially in lineups where I have A.J. Green, I will be pairing him with Dalton in plenty of lineups. But that's probably all the 6K quarterbacks I like. Big Ben, I'll maybe have in a few lineups, but I don't expect to go too crazy on Big Ben. Same with Trubisky. Trubisky's looked really good this year, been good for fantasy. I'll probably have him in some lineups, but don't expect to go too crazy on him. The value at quarterback's pretty thin this week, but I do like Baker Mayfield as a value play. I like him again this week at 5,700. Against the Steelers, this is a good spot for Baker Mayfield. The Steelers' defense has been pretty bad this year, especially against the pass. Now that the Browns don't have Carlos Hyde, they really don't have much of a running game. They did give Nick Chubb like 20 carries last week, but he wasn't really efficient. I expect Baker Mayfield to be throwing the ball a lot here, especially because I think they're going to be trailing in this game. I think Pittsburgh's going to be able to have a lead. So the Browns are probably going to be playing from behind. Mayfield's going to have to throw. At 5,700, I think he can easily get 20 to 25 DK points in this spot and definitely be one of the best values at quarterback. So I like him at 5,700. I also think Matthew Stafford's in play at 5,600 against the Seahawks at home. I do like Stafford here. Cam Newton as well, just because Cam Newton's so cheap. Obviously, the matchup is not good against the Ravens, but Cam Newton for 5,800 just feels like too much of a bargain. So I will have Cam in some lineups. I expect him to be very low owned this week with the matchup against the Ravens, with how tough that matchup is. So favorite values, Cam Newton, Baker Mayfield, Matthew Stafford. Those are the cheap plays I like. But I think that really is it for quarterback. At least the quarterbacks I feel like I'm going to be playing come Sunday. So let's go ahead and move on to running back, where we do have Todd Gurley up top at this position. And one of the reasons I'm trying to go cheap at quarterback this week is to fit in Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley, just a beast. You can play this dude every week no matter what the matchup is. Hasn't scored less than 25 DraftKings points all year. Just been great for fantasy. He's scoring touchdowns. He gets a ton of carries. He's involved in the passing game. Dude just does it all. 9,800, that's too cheap of a price. Gurley should be like 10.5, should be 11K probably every week, so that way it's tough to fit him in and people have to, sacrifice some positions. When he's 9,800, I'll just jam in Todd Gurley. Probably going to have at least 50, 60% of him in tournaments, if not more than that. With just how good this dude is, I'll be trying to fit him in most of my lineups. So love Gurley if you can fit him in at running back. I don't think he's like a must play. I'll be playing him in a lot of lineups, but there are other good options you could consider. You do have Saquon Barkley for 1,000 less, who I will have some exposure to this week. You got James Conner, Joe Mixon, Kareem Hunt, McCaffrey, all in that 7K range. All pretty strong plays as well. As long as Le'Veon Bell doesn't return for this game against Cleveland, which I don't think he's going to, then James Conner at 7,500 definitely in play. Especially if you do need the savings. If there's like no value come Sunday, and you need to go down to Conner, I understand doing that. Joe Mixon, as long as as long as Gio Bernard doesn't come back come Sunday, if Mixon's got the backfield to himself, then at 7,300, I do like him as well. Kareem Hunt has a really good matchup against the Broncos. The Broncos' run defense has been really bad this year. Kareem Hunt been really good for fantasy these last few games. He's been involved in the pass game a lot more. He's seen 6 targets week 6, 6 targets in week 7. He's got 5 catches the last 2 games. He's been getting some carries as well. Been scoring touchdowns. So Kareem Hunt could definitely be a play at 7,100. And then the same thing goes for McCaffrey as it does for Cam Newton. McCaffrey's just too cheap for how involved he is. I don't expect him to be high owned at all at 7K, but I will have some exposure to him at 7K. The guy just gets so much involvement. He gets a ton of carries. He's going to get work in the passing game on DraftKings with it being full PPR. McCaffrey's always a guy I'm going to have in some of my lineups. 7K against the Ravens, I don't expect him to be remotely popular at all. So I don't mind going over the field on whatever people are going to be. If McCaffrey's going to be 5% owned come Sunday, then I'll put him in probably 10% of my lineups. Maybe go even a little bit heavier, just because how good McCaffrey is, how good he is for fantasy. So that's it for the 7K backs. Now trying to find some value. We do have guys in this 5K range we could play. Tariq Cohen, been really good this year, been really good as of late. At 5,800 against the Jets, I think he's a good play in the 5K range. Marlon Mack's coming off a really good game last week against Oakland. Good matchup here at 5,400. Marlon Mack definitely in play as a mid-tier option. And then the value, if we're going cheap, we do have Nick Chubb again, who we could consider at 4,700. But I think I'll probably be shying away from Nick Chubb this week. It's a tough matchup. Pittsburgh's run defense much better than their pass defense. Nick Chubb not really involved in the passing game. I don't really like taking running backs on DK that aren't involved in the passing game. So I'm kind of scared to take Chubb again this week. He did get priced up to 4,700. So he's not a guy I love, but he's definitely at least in consideration if I need to go cheap. And then we do have the Oakland running backs. So we know that Marshawn Lynch is going to be on IR. So Doug Martin at 4,400, Jalen Richard at 4,200. Both value plays you could consider. If I had to pick one, I think I'd go with Richard just because he's the guy they've been using more just throughout the year. Doug Martin really hasn't been involved at all just throughout the year. Richard, even with Lynch active, has at least been involved in the passing game. If the Raiders are trailing in this game, I expect Richard to be the running back that's in the backfield a lot. He does get good targets when they're trailing. 8 targets week 6 against Seattle. Got 7 catches, 6 targets, 5 targets, 7 targets. He's not going to get a ton of carries, but when it comes to DraftKings, he's involved in the passing game a lot. And with it being full PPR scoring, Richard at 4,200 against a Colts team that does struggle against pass-catching running backs. I do like Richard as a cheap value play if you want to go down to him. But I think that's it for running back for this week, at least the running backs that catch my eye. So let's go ahead and move on to wide receiver. Do have some good plays up top at this position. Tyreek Hill probably going to be avoiding this week at 8,600. Would just much rather play Antonio Brown, would much rather play A.J. Green, especially A.J. Green. Love this spot for him. 8K against the Buccaneers. Just such a good matchup. The Buccaneers are terrible defensively. Against the pass, they don't have any good corners that can stop A.J. Green. This is a smash spot for A.J. Green. I see 20, 25 DraftKings points at least. I think he can get north of 30, 35. It's just a great spot. I think he can get 100 yards, a touchdown, 5, 10 catches for 100, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns maybe. Green has that kind of upside in this matchup. So I really like him at 8K. One of my favorite overall studs on this slate. Him and Gurley, I'll have a ton of exposure to this week. But I'm not just going to go all in on A.J. Green. I will have some exposure to A.B. I'll probably have some exposure to Devontae Adams as well, especially if Cobb and Geronimo Allison are out again. Then Devontae Adams is going to see so many targets. At 7,900, he seems really expensive. But if those two guys remain out, Devontae Adams is going to see 10, 15 targets, if not north of 15. Got 16 targets last week against San Francisco, 38 DraftKings points. Week 5, when those two guys were out, 12 targets, 140 yards, or 9 catches, 140 yards, and a touchdown, 32 DraftKings points. Devontae Adams has been crushing lately with those two guys out. If they remain out, don't mind paying a $7,900 price tag for Devontae Adams. Other plays, though, we have in this mid-range, you got Odell at $7,500. Really like that price. I'll have some Odell this week. Juju Smith-Schuster, if I play Big Ben in some lineups, I'll probably stack him with Juju, stack him with AB. Juju's never a guy I just totally avoid. $7,400, he'll be in some of my lineups as well. You have the Rams receivers who could possibly be in consideration again if Cooper Kupp is out. If Cooper Kupp plays, I probably won't be playing Cooks or Woods at these price tags. I'd just rather get up to the other guys. But if Kupp remains out, Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods both in play for me. If you don't want to go to A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd's there at $6,700. He also gets the really good matchup against Tampa Bay. Don't mind Tyler Boyd on this slate. But we do have a lot of value receiver. I definitely want to talk about some of the value plays we have. Once we get like 5K and under, you got Demaryius Thomas at $4,900, who seems a little bit too cheap for this matchup against the Chiefs. The Chiefs' defense against the pass has not really been that good this year. They've been allowing a ton of points. This game could potentially shoot out if Denver can put up some points. So Demaryius Thomas, $4,900 could be a value play. I'm hearing some talk about Michael Crabtree at $4,800 against the Panthers. He's been getting pretty good targets last week. This feels like the Willie Snead play where he was cheap and was getting targets. This feels a little bit stronger than the Willie Snead play, though. Crabtree's getting 12, 9, 9 targets last 3 games, 12, 21, 11 DraftKings points. He's only $4,800. Could definitely be a value play you look to. You do have Jordy Nelson, who should see some increased targets with Amari Cooper now on the Cowboys. MVS at $4,600 is definitely a value play we could go to as long as Geronimo Allison and Randall Cobb remain out for this game against the Rams. Chris Godwin, I think, is a value play that's in consideration. He's $4,500. He's going to get you about 5-6 targets a week, if not more than that. I expect Tampa Bay to most likely be trailing in this game. They're going to have to throw. They don't really have much of a run game anyways. They're going to be throwing a lot, so Chris Godwin is a cheap option that maybe is in consideration. Also, want to talk about the Jets receivers. So we have Jermaine Kearse at $4,300. You could go to against the Bears, but I think Robbie Anderson is probably the stronger play this week. Robbie Anderson is only $4,100. He is really, really cheap. It's not a great matchup against the Bears. The Bears do have a good defense, but I expect Robbie Anderson to just get a ton of targets. He got 10 targets last week against the Vikings, only 3 catches for 44 yards. I expect a better game from Robbie Anderson this week. The targets we're getting for this cheap makes him a very good play, in my opinion. The Jets just don't really have any good receivers, any receivers that are healthy right now. Quincy Enunwa not healthy right now. Terrell Pryor got waived, I believe. He is now a free agent, so it's pretty much Kearse and Anderson, the two guys that Sam Darnold can rely on. I think Anderson gets the most targets out of the two, and I do like him. That's sort of a value play we could go to. So I think that's it for the value receivers that I like this week that catch my eye. So moving on to tight end. Another position where we do have studs up top that are in consideration. You have Travis Kelce against Denver at $6,800. It's going to be hard for me to play Travis Kelce this week with the other studs we have. Tight end's always a position I like to go cheap. Travis Kelce, though, is in consideration, obviously. I think Jared Cook at $5K is a really strong play with Amari Cooper not on the team anymore. I expect Jared Cook just see a ton of targets against the Colts. I do like him at $5K, but I'm going to go with the little quarterback tight end stack. The stack I went with last week, I like it again this week. David Njoku and Baker Mayfield. Really like that quarterback tight end stack. Njoku's just been so good lately for the Browns. He's been one of their best pass catching options. Last 4 weeks, I should say, just been seeing a ton of targets. 7 targets, 10 targets, 12, 6 targets, 10, 12, 18, 15 DraftKings points. He scored a touchdown in the last 2 weeks. He's in another spot where he could score a touchdown here. Against Pittsburgh, like I mentioned, their pass defense not nearly as good as their run defense. I think Mayfield has to throw the ball a lot in this game. He's going to be targeting Njoku a ton. And I do like David Njoku at $4,600. Another tight end play, or just I should say, another guy I'm going to have a lot of exposure to this week at tight end. If you don't want to go to Njoku, though, there are other plays you have. You got Jimmy Graham against the Rams, who I think is a good play if those two receivers remain out. Maybe Jordan Reed at $4,500 against the Giants you could go to as well. But tight end for me, I feel like I'm going to be really on Kelce if I can fit him in, but most likely like Jared Cook, Njoku, maybe some Eric Ebron, Jimmy Graham. Those are probably the guys I'll stick to at tight end, or the guys I'll have the most exposure to. So I think that's it for tight end. Let's quickly go over some of the defense plays we can consider on this slate. So the Bears defense, by far the most expensive defense. It's a $900 drop in price when you go down from the Bears to the Cardinals. The Bears are $4,100 facing the Jets at home. Obviously the Bears are a strong play here if you can fit them in, but I think there's a lot of good cheap defenses this week. We'll just start off with the Chiefs. The Chiefs really stick out to me. $2,600 at home against the Broncos. We know Case Keenum has been struggling. He'll turn the ball over. Although the Chiefs don't have a great defense, they can get some pressure on the quarterback. They're playing at home in Arrowhead. I do like them as a really cheap defense. You do have the Rams at $2,600. I don't love playing defenses against Aaron Rodgers because he's such a good quarterback and he doesn't really turn the ball over much. But the Rams have a great defense and they're cheap. They're playing at home. I don't mind them. The Panthers are getting to face Joe Flacco at home. $2,500. I could see going to the Panthers. The Bengals gets to face Jameis Winston. The Bengals are playing at home. Jameis Winston, we know, will turn the ball over. Will take some sacks. So that group of four right there, Chiefs, Rams, Bengals, Panthers, is probably the four defenses I'm going to really be heavy on this week. Looking, though, cheaper, the Lions against Russell Wilson and that bad Seahawks offense could be in play at $2,400. If you don't buy Mayfield, or just if you're not playing anybody from Cleveland this week, the Steelers are $2,300 facing the Browns at home. I could see wanting to go there. But I think that's it for defense. Like I said, that little core right there between the Chiefs, Rams, Bengals, and Panthers, I think those are the four defenses I'm going to be really heavy on this week. So I think that's it for defense, and I think that's it for the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy this video, and hopefully it did help you. If you did enjoy, just make sure you click that like button before you get out of here. I would really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed yet, click that subscribe button before you leave. If you do have any questions, you can always hit me up on Twitter at the DFS_GOAT, or you can leave any comments down below. I'm always reading your comments. Feel free to comment anything, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. But yeah, guys, good luck on this Week 8 slate, and we will see you back again in my next video. Peace.